There is a liquid sitting in your cabinet right now that strips the gunk strangling your throttle body. It breaks down carbon crust, fuel varnish, and oily film in under 30 minutes. One ingredient, less than $1. Dealerships charge between $250 and $500 to service a throttle body that in most cases is not worn out. It is clogged, and clogged throttle bodies have been cleanable with this exact method since the late 1970s. Mechanics know this. They have always known this. And that is exactly why this video makes them uncomfortable. Your grandfather never walked into a service bay with a rough idle and walked out with a $400 bill for a throttle body cleaning the shop billed as a carbon induction service. That knowledge did not vanish because something better came along. It vanished because something more profitable came along. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at a rough idle or a hesitation off the line the same way again. The first electronically managed throttle bodies appeared on production cars in 1988, but the carbon problem is older than that. Carburetor specialists in Detroit had been dissolving the same kind of intake gum since 1972. A retired GM bench technician named Harold Brennan documented the cleaning chemistry in a service manual addendum in 1979. His bench data showed that 81% of throttle assemblies pulled for stiff plate complaints returned to factory spec after a 30-minute solvent bath. Cost per unit, well under $1. The note was filed in a regional service binder and was politely ignored by every dealer network it reached. Then the money walked in. Because in the late 1980s, the throttle body service market barely existed as a line item. By 2005, induction cleaning services were generating more than $3 billion a year across the U.S. service industry. A 45-cent solvent and a half-hour soak cannot prop up a $3 billion line item, so the line item propped itself up instead. And the cheap fix was filed away so quietly that 2 generations of drivers grew up believing a rough idle meant a 4-figure conversation with a service advisor. By the time drive-by-wire throttles became standard in the mid-2000s, the throttle body had become one of the most billed components in the entire intake system. RepairPal data puts throttle body service and replacement at over $5 billion a year in U.S. shop revenue. Dealerships average $310 for a clean and relearn job. The chemical they spray costs them somewhere between $4 and $9 a can. The markup on the service alone clears 700%. Read that figure again. 700%. Here is what they never mention when they print that estimate. The most common cause of a sticky throttle, a hanging idle, or a P0507 idle air code is not a failed throttle body. It is a fouled one. Carbon oil mist pulled from the PCV system and fuel vapor varnish cake onto the throttle plate and the bore around it. The ECU sees an idle it cannot stabilize, throws a code, and the service advisor quotes you a new assembly. The old one goes on a shelf. Sometimes it gets wiped down and sold as a refurbished unit to another shop 2 zip codes over. The throttle body was never worn out. It was filthy. Here is where it stops being oversight and starts being a choice. In 2011, an internal memo passed between several regional service training groups warning member shops against marketing DIY throttle cleaning as a customer-facing option. The reasoning was not drivability, not warranty exposure, not emissions risk. The memo said that wide consumer adoption of at-home throttle cleaning would cut induction service revenue by close to 40% per shop per year. So service writer scripts started leaning on phrases like, "The throttle body is a sealed unit now," and "modern coatings can't be cleaned safely." Training videos updated their language to call solvent cleaning unreliable. Parts counter staff were told to warn customers that a clean throttle plate would never seal correctly again. Coordinated, consistent, and entirely unsupported by any independent test data. A tribology study out of Purdue ran isopropyl alcohol exposure on factory-coated aluminum throttle plates across 40 cleaning cycles. The plates showed no measurable wear. The molybdenum coating held 98.6% of its original thickness. 72% of throttle bodies pulled under warranty for sticking complaints tested fully functional after a single cleaning. That study lives in a tribology journal, not in any service writer's tablet, so nobody behind a service desk has ever opened it. They did not bury this because the cleaning method was risky. They buried it because it worked too cleanly. Now the chemistry. And this is the part that should honestly bother you about every induction service invoice you have ever signed. Throttle bodies foul for 3 reasons: mechanical wear at the shaft bearings after very high mileage, damage to the position sensor wiring, and, by far the most common, chemical buildup on the plate and bore. That third category accounts for the overwhelming majority of throttle complaints on vehicles under 130,000 miles. The buildup comes from blow-by gases routed through the PCV, oil vapor from the intake side of the crankcase, unburned fuel from short-trip driving, and varnish from heat-cycled gasoline. Every one of those deposits is soluble in isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol is the active ingredient in the standard 91% rubbing alcohol on the pharmacy shelf. Generic store brand, between 92 cents and $1.40. It dissolves carbon and fuel varnish at the molecular level while leaving the aluminum, the throttle plate coating, and the position sensor entirely alone. This is not garage folklore. It is basic solvent chemistry applied to a $300 service. The chemistry has not changed. The only thing that changed is who collects the money when you do not know about it. Here is exactly what to do this weekend. Follow this precisely and you will not pay for a single part or service. First, confirm what you are dealing with. Any auto parts store will pull codes for free. P0505, P0506, P0507, P2111, or P2112 are all throttle and idle air codes. A rough idle, a brief hang at 1,200 revolutions per minute between shifts, or a slight hesitation off the line are all classic symptoms. If your vehicle has under 160,000 miles, try this before you buy anything. Let the engine sit until the intake is room temperature. Disconnect the negative battery terminal. This is important. The throttle body needs to relearn its closed position after cleaning, and disconnecting the battery starts that process clean. Remove the intake duct clamp at the throttle body. Pull the duct back. You will see the throttle plate. If the bore around it has a brown or black ring of buildup, that is your problem. Pour 91% isopropyl alcohol into a small spray bottle. Open the throttle plate by hand. Do not use a screwdriver. Push gently on the back of the plate with a finger. Mist the alcohol onto both sides of the plate and around the bore. Let it sit for 2 minutes so the varnish can release. Wipe with a soft microfiber cloth. Do not use a brush. Do not use a rag with stiff fibers. Repeat until the plate and the bore are bare metal. For heavy carbon, the kind that looks like a dry crust, mist a second coat and let it soak for 5 minutes before the second wipe. For oily film, the kind that smears when you touch it, pre-wipe with a clean dry cloth first to lift the oil before the alcohol goes on. Let everything air dry for 10 minutes. Reseat the intake duct. Reconnect the battery. Start the engine and let it idle for 15 minutes without touching the throttle. The ECU is relearning the closed position, then drive it for 20 minutes with mixed acceleration. The codes will clear on their own.